Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you all for being here for our summer security workshop. We know that we have a lot of security concerns that are hitting our California community colleges, and the CCC Security Center hosted at the Technology Center is here to provide as much support and assistance as possible. We are also working with the Chancellor's office on expansion of those services as part of additional dollars that have been identified in the governor's budget specific to security profile at the colleges and services and support around various threats. And so I want to thank you all for being here today and for taking action in making sure that your colleges are poised to address those risks and concerns that are out there in the system. I want to make sure that you all know that you can reach the Security Center and our services there and across the portfolio at the CCC Technology Center by reaching out directly to the contacts here that are noted in the workshop, but also through your college relationship managers. We have 3 of them. Each one is assigned a third of the colleges, and they are Monica Matusek, Monica Zaliket, and Warren Whitmore. So please reach out for assistance as you need it. And I know that it will be a great session. It's always positive in terms of outcomes. And I will now hand it off to Amir to provide the overview of what we covered. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good morning, everyone. Cindy, if you want to pull the schedule, thank you very much. Today we have a very full presentation. We invited all the experts in various fields. We invited a couple of guests from Microsoft who are experts in Azure and Defender for Microsoft Defender. We have Larry, who's going to be doing presentation on Windows, hands-on Windows auditing. And then we have Daniel Gorman, who works for the Coast College, Community College, and he's going to be talking about security awareness. And we have Tuan Tran, who's going to be going into the security onion, which a lot of you guys I know use, and followed by finally, current trends in ransomware that we all are aware of is hitting the education industry on a daily basis. So having said that, if you have any questions, please feel free to post that on the chat, and we will monitor those. And towards the end, we will answer all the questions at the presentation. So once we are, towards the end of the presentation, we will have a few minutes discussing the Q&A for various presentation that we're doing today. So our first talk is going to be on Microsoft Single Sign-on Azure. We have industry leader and expert from Microsoft, Ash Summer here, was kind enough to join us today. So he's going to be presenting that today. So I'm going to hand off to Ash to introduce himself and start the presentation, and we start the proceeding from there.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Amir. Really appreciate the opportunity, and special thanks to the Tech Center team. I know we've been having a lot of back and forth conversation around security, and there's a lot of gaps that needs to be filled because being that security is such a broad topic. My name is Ash Summer. I'm the senior technical specialist in my team. I cover security, compliance, and identity for all of my California accounts. So I work with K through 12 schools and higher ed as well. Some of my customers are the UC system, CSUs, all the California community colleges, and of course the side accounts. So I manage over 500 accounts along with my counterpart. His name is Ian. We try to divide and conquer because there's such a broad area to cover all across California. So nice to meet everyone. And I'm going to go ahead and kick things off here because I know single sign-on has been the center of our conversation for a very long time. And I know Amir and we've been talking at conferences and back and forth on the calls as well, making sure that Microsoft has something that's feasible for all of the California community colleges. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen here. See if I could do this correctly in Zoom. Let's see, 1 second. Find that. Okay. And if somebody can tell me if they can see my screen.
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and kick things off. I'm going to go through some of the slides that I have. What I would say, go ahead and make notes of your questions. If you want to go ahead and drop them, you can do that in the chat. But I would like to set aside about 10 or 15 minutes at the end of my presentation to answer those questions. All right. So let's go ahead and kick things off here. Sorry, just give me 1 quick second. Just gotta. I think it is on. All right. Okay. All right. Just to kick things off, in terms of identity and access management, Azure Active Directory is the world's largest cloud identity service all across the world, right? There's many different providers, but Azure Active Directory is one of the most popular ones. And as you may know, we try to do, or we already do, so many authentications all across the globe. And just to put things in perspective, here are some numbers. 200,000 Azure AD Premium organizations that are out there. So they're in Azure AD. We have 345 million Azure AD monthly active users that we try to authenticate pretty much every month. And then 30 billion Azure AD daily authentication requests that we get into our Azure AD portal, right? So it's a large amount of users that we try to cover. So what does that mean from a single sign-on perspective, right? So the reality is you.
I'm
Yes.
sorry to interrupt you. Sorry, I think that we are watching. I don't think that we're watching your slideshow.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I can see the title slide of the presentation. Okay, thank you. Thanks. That looks to be intact. You might want to back up. Your slides were frozen on the first slide there for a couple minutes. Thank you.
Oh, I apologize for that. Okay. Are you able to see this slide now? The 2 million active apps?
Indeed. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. I apologize for that.
It appears your PowerPoint is broadcasting fine now.
Okay.
It was not before. Thank you.
Okay, pleasure. All right, so when we talk about single sign-on, the very first thing that comes into mind is having that identity and access management in place, right? You want to make sure that you have that presence in the Active Directory realm or the identity and access management realm. And that's when you can go ahead and tie that into the single sign-on aspect. So for us here at Microsoft, we are continuously adding different apps, SaaS-based apps, into our enterprise application portal. So when you think of Salesforce, Dropbox, Box.com, all the other third-party applications, we have a collection of 2 million of those. And the growth has been 100% year over year. So we're essentially collecting feedback from our partners. We're essentially collecting feedback from our customers that which apps are you trying to have in the portal, or which ones do you want to see in the portal? And of course, once we have a good amount of requests, then we go in and create those apps, the integration for it in the portal, in the enterprise application portal. Okay. So at the end of the day, we want to make sure that for the most popular apps that we have in our stack, as mentioned earlier, Workday, ServiceNow, something that's consistently and commonly used all across the business realm, the education realm, or any other vertical out there. We want to make sure we have those integrations already set up. And so on this slide, you're going to see some of those that are already pointed out. And again, we have thousands of pre-integrated SaaS-based applications. These are very easy to configure. We, as a matter of fact, have a dedicated Microsoft Docs page where we have integrations list out all the specific configurations that anybody in the world can access and just go in, look at the steps, all the simple steps in there, and then set up that integration. All right, moving on. So when we talk about integrations, obviously the single sign-on aspect is perfect, but what we also want to do is we want to make sure that we have that zero trust mindset, having that security mindset that even though the user is able to get to where they want to, where they want to go, but at the same time, they're able to prove who they are before they get there, right? Because some of these applications, third-party applications like Workday, Salesforce, they may have some confidential information that you don't want the adversary to come in and view. And same goes for if you're using any of the storage platforms like Google Cloud or Box.com, Dropbox, or Microsoft 365, or any on-premises applications that you may have developed or custom developed. You can go ahead and tie in a two-factor authentication in front of them, right? So basically proving who they are, and then they can go on and consume those apps in your environment. And you can achieve that with the power of conditional access policies. So essentially what that is this decision point that comes into play whenever a user comes in from the left, which is sign-on. So whenever they try to make that connection in your environment, if they meet certain requirements that you preset, meaning that if the authentication is coming in from a safe IP address, authentication is coming in from a dedicated device or company issued device, or if the user identity is not anomalous in nature, meaning that if an attacker may have compromised the identity and they're using a hide my IP address or some other anonymizer tool and trying to make that connection in your environment, you are able to mitigate those threats against your environment and make sure only the right folks can access the right data in your environment. Okay, and I see a hand got raised. So is there a question?
Hey, good morning. We're going to be using the chat window for questions, Ash. So there's no live mics in the audience today. So
got it. Thank you very much for that.
On the chat, please. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. All right. So moving on, let's talk a little bit about application proxy, right? So initially we talked about how single sign-on experience could work in your environment, making sure you have the appropriate controls using conditional access policy where folks can prove who they are and then they can come into your environment. But what does that mean if you have something created customized on your on-premises environment, like an on-premises web app? How are you able to put that decision phase to have users prove who they are before they can get to that on-premises web application? So we use something called application proxy. What that is essentially, we can bring your on-premises apps and bring it to the Azure AD portal where your end users can go to mysignins.microsoft.com, and you're going to see a collection of apps in there. So any of the apps a administrator sanctions for the entire user population will show up in there. And you can, as a matter of fact, sanction your on-premises apps to be available in the cloud in that My Apps portal. So all you users have to do is just go to that My Apps portal. They're going to see all the cloud-based apps, the SaaS-based apps, all the Dropbox, Workday, so on and so forth in there. they can also go ahead and see any of the on-premises applications that you have set up for them, any custom built apps or any on-premises cloud HRM tools. So you can go ahead and do that using application proxy, and we're going to talk about the configuration on a very high level, what that looks like and how we're able to make it possible. Now, as a vendor, Microsoft has deep integrations and partnerships with the popular firewall and load balancer, other network controllers out there. So it's a combination of not only the software and configuration aspect of things, but it's also tying into the popular network delivery controllers that are out there, such as F5, Zscaler, Akami, and Citrix, making sure that we have their partnership established and making sure that any of the integration changes that our partners may do, we want to be able to be informed about that and then make configuration changes on our end as well, right? And then, of course, we have native integrations with popular legacy applications from the past. So a lot of Oracles of the world, SAPs of the world have been around for a very long time. So if your environment, in one way, shape, or form, if they are using any of the Oracle e-business or SAP ECCs, we can tie into that perfectly. All right, so just kind of double clicking on that application proxy, just to quickly walk you through what that looks like, right? Just gonna go to build out this slide here. So essentially there's two parts to it. First part is you're going to do some configuration on your Azure side, which is going to be pretty much the left portion of the house. And then the right side is your corporate network. So that's what's going to be on premises. Now, not to get too technical here, but essentially to make this possible, meaning to bring your on-premises cloud apps, or I'm sorry, on-premises web apps to the cloud, it's very simple to do. It's just two-part configuration on the left, one being on the left and one being on the right, meaning one in the cloud, which is your application proxy. And then on the right side, you're just going to tie in a server, which is going to manage all the authentication. So it's not a major lift and shift that needs to happen. Okay. All right, now again, just kind of double clicking on what I mentioned earlier, because the conditional access policy, the zero trust policy, or the security is very important in this whole aspect. Because if you don't have the security controls, which is that conditional access that you see in the middle of the page, if you don't have that in place, that's when a user's identity can, or if the user's identity gets compromised, the attacker is able to just as easily come in, and you're going to see on the right side, they can access your cloud apps, they can access your on-premises apps, they can access any of the network delivery controllers components if they need to. So having conditional access policy, having that security control in place is very important, all right? All right, so there's something called header-based authentication. And again, not to get too technical here, but header-based authentication is a method which is very popular in the single sign-on world. It just simplifies a lot of things for a lot of admins and a lot of users as well. It uses a specific attribute from Azure AD, and then it's able to match that with your on-premises AD to make that authentication possible. And this page is just to tell you that we do support that, being that it's very popular, we do support that. Awesome. All right, so when we look at the integration aspect, I know we already talked about our current partners, the Citrix, F5, Zscaler. We have expanded our partnerships to Palo Alto, Fortinet, other popular firewall and load balancer companies. And on the left side, we also have increased our support for different authentications that we do in the environment. So not only we support header-based authentication in Kerberos, we've extended that to NTLM, RDP, SSH, and non-HTTP protocols. And this is more so a FYI slide, being that we're consistently evolving in our identity access management space. It's very important to point this aspect out. All right, so diving a little bit deeper into the identity lifecycle. So in a traditional world, the entire identity lifecycle revolved around the joiner, mover, and leaver process, meaning that a new user gets onboarded. That user may stay with the company for 5 years or so, maybe even a year or so, and they may change roles or move into a new role, which is common in any environment. And then after that, that person or that user may decide to exit the company, whether it could be through a termination process or just a simple resignation. So that's essentially that overall joiner, mover, and leaver process. Now, what happens over here is that for a single person, it's easier to manage that. But now if you're managing thousands and thousands of people, which California